So,
Okay, we're going to be exploring the Hebrew Aleph Beit, which is exploring the deeper levels of the Hebrew letters. As I said earlier, we are going to get into a deep study of the Aleph Beit. To understand the Aleph Beit is to understand better the Hebrew language. So, we're going to move on. The first, and I wish that you could see this a little better. I hate that it's not as clear, but the Aleph Beit. What we have is the in Genesis 1 and 3. Hebrew reads from right to left, opposed to English reading left to right. So it's going to challenge you to be able to do that. And sometimes I find myself reading stuff from right to left when I'm reading English, especially when I'm really studying. So you have to really remember that you're reading from the right to the left. So as you can see up here, it's reading the letters. This is what it says. It says, Ba'amar Elohim Ha-Haya or Vahaya or. And what that translates into is, and said Elohim, light come to be, and light came to be. And actually, Va'amer Yah, and said Yahweh or Elohim, come to be, light. And light come to be light. So you can see the difference in how we would structure a sentence and how it was structured biblically. This is biblical Hebrew, so you will not be able to go out and talk to a Jewish person that lives in Israel now, because that is it's a language. That's a different language. This is an ancient language that is really not used during this time over in Israel. Now, some words we will go through, like I was telling you earlier, like yom, day, or good, tov, or and in our sessions, in our study and service, we can start using those words. If you're saying yes, came, those words like that are the same in Hebrew in the language that they use over there now. So some little things you will be able to use, but most of this, for the most part, is going to be biblical Hebrew. Okay, as I said, the Aleph Beit. I said this earlier. I may have said it in another class or in another time. Sometimes I get it mixed up. But in Hebrew, the Hebrew Aleph Beit, they're structured pretty much have three different or three ways to view each letter. The first one is a picture, it's pictorial. The next one has a number attached to it, which we call gematria. And then the other one is the actual letter of the name. Okay? So, Hebrew versus English. As I said, English is read from left to right. Hebrew is read from right to left. So let's start out with the first letter. And I tell you, I hate that it is so dark. Maybe, well, if we turn the light off, that won't work. But anyway, this is an Aleph that you cannot see. Let me bring it down. This is what I'm doing. I'll make this so you can see them a little bit. change the color. Send it to the back. Ooh, now you can see it. That's a fancy Aleph. Aleph being the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, its pictorial or value is an ox, or with the ox being the head of the sacrificial system. In the Torah, it tells us that if a priest, the priests have the highest weight put on them if they break the Torah and do something wrong. And because of that, they get the highest penalty. As the scripture says, Yeshua said, to whom much is given, much will be required. And because much was given to them, which was the Torah, not just for them to walk out the commandments, the teaching and the instructions, but also to teach. And they are also set in place to make sure that they are to do all of the sacrifices, how? Correctly. If they didn't do those sacrifices correctly, then people's sins were not being atoned for. And then also, if they were in a position themselves where they had sinned, because if you remember from me and Rabbi teaching, within that tabernacle, the moving tabernacle situation, and even when the first and second temples were built, if that priest first had to cleanse and wash himself and atone for his own sins before he even went forth into the place to atone for the sins of the people. And that's why if he sinned, he paid a higher penalty, which would have been an ox. An ox is a large weight-bearing animal that was very expensive during that time. And if you had to give up and sacrifice an ox, you were really sacrificing something great. That's like you sacrificing and giving up your home. You know, you're giving something great, or you're sacrificing and giving over your portfolio that's worth, $1.5 million or $3 million. That's a lot. That's what an ox would have been, maybe a little far-fetched, but that's what an ox would have been comparative to. That was a large sum that a person would have to give. So because he was the largest of the sacrificial animals, it's put in the place of the Aleph. But the more spiritual, or what I like to call the Sod level, everybody say Sod.
Sod.
That is spelled S-O-D. Sod. It would be a Samik and a Dalet. That's how it would be spelled. Samik and Dalet. Sod. The Sod level is the deeper understanding of things within the scripture or within Yahweh. So when we say, I'm going to a Sod level right now, we're saying, I'm going to a deeper level. This is going to be a real spiritual level. It is the last of the levels of understanding in Hebrew. So we will deal with we're dealing pretty much when you deal with the Hebrew alphabet, you deal from the pictorial, which would be your actual, your level, or the actual letter itself would be the actual literal level. And then you go on down to the dresh, the remez, and then the Sod level. So your Sod level would be that the Aleph would be representative of Yahweh, the master, the creator, the head, as the ox is the head of the sacrificial system. And then its gematria, of course, is one. Just as Yahweh says in the Shema. Shema Israel, Yahweh, Eloheinu, Yahweh, Echad. Echad is one. Okay? So that is the Aleph. Now also there are some real interesting points within the Aleph Beit, and that is that the Aleph is made up of 3 different letters. Well, 2 different letters and then 1 additional letter. So we're going to look at the Aleph from this standpoint here, and we're going to break it down. That's a yod. That's an elongated yod. And that's a slanted vav. Now, as we get further into the Aleph Beit, you're going to get the understanding of what that vav means and what the yods mean. Now, because we're in the Aleph Beit, and I said we were going to go as deep as we can into it, we're going to go ahead and give you the gematria value completely for the Aleph. It has the gematria value of 1, that it is 1. Yahweh Echad is 1. But the solid level of the Aleph is enormous in what it portrays in Yahweh. Because you have the Yod, which gets gematria value is 10. You have another elongated Yod, which gematria value is 10. Then you have the Vav, which gematria value is 6. So when you add up 10, 10, and 6, what do you get? 26 is also the gematria value of the name Yod He Vav He. So even in that 1 letter, you've got the name of Yahweh written there in the numbers. Some people call it numerology. Well, Father Yahweh is an accountant. He has always been an accountant, and he will always. He says, I number the hairs on your head. He said, I number the stars of the heavens. So how people could get caught up and say, that's numerology. You can call it what you want. Yahweh is an accountant. But if we look over here, we've got the Yod. Yod is the gematria value 10. He is 5. Vav is 6. He is 5. 10, 5, 6, 5 equals 26. So in his name, there's the gematria value of the soul's deeper level of understanding of the Aleph. Are there any questions? No?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you break down, okay, I think I said this before, but okay, got the Yod and the Vav. What does the Vav mean?
The Vav means nail. Nail, it also means a man. And we'll get into that too. But it actually means nail. So look how far that goes. You've got the Yod's pictorial value is a hand. A hand, and a nail. I mean, what does that make you think of? Yeshua. His hands were nailed. From the beginning. From the Aleph. And you know, Yeshua said what when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane praying? He said, Father, deliver me and take me back to the place. Now I'm paraphrasing. Take me back to the place where I was one from the beginning. He was from the beginning. In Zechariah, we see the scripture says, and they shall look on him, on me, whose hands they pierced, and mourn for me as a father mourns for his only son. Yahweh. that plan of salvation was from the beginning. So that's the Aleph. Okay? Okay. That's our